I want to talk about movies today, more to the point, the current state of Hollywood, traditionally the global epicenter of creativity in film and TV. But all is not well in Hollywood right now, and today we'll tell you why. For most of my life, Los Angeles was considered the beating heart of film and TV production, with the big studios in tight control of production, distribution, and cultural influence all over the world. But things are changing. In the old days, the studios owned the creators, the writers, the facilities, and even the actors. But that system broke down a long time ago, with movie making becoming decentralized and increasingly independent. Worldwide box office up until COVID time was consistently around $11 billion a year. Now it's averaging $8 billion. That's a decline of 27%. Now, obviously, the way people get their entertainment has changed dramatically, impacted by streaming services like Netflix, along with the big uplift in the volume and quality of high-end TV series production. But with that, we have to recognize that vast numbers of people are just not showing up for the way stories are being told. People have just had enough of being lectured to about political correctness when they just want to be entertained. Here's my favorite example, Star Wars. Now, remember, the movie business is driven by hits and especially by franchises, and there has never been a greater franchise than Star Wars. Dating back almost 50 years now, the brilliant George Lucas directed the first Star Wars, A New Hope. That's back in 1977. I was 13 years old at the time, and I'll never forget it. And another 5 blockbuster hits followed, and I have to confess to being something of a Star Wars nerd. But in 2012, George's company, Lucasfilm, was bought by the Disney Corporation for $4 billion. And that's when I think the franchise started its decline. This May, Disney released its latest attempt to resuscitate the franchise with a film called The Mandalorian and Grogu. Now, I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on this film, except to say its opening weekend was the worst for any Star Wars film ever. And to confirm its status as a flop, the film's box office fell 70% in its second weekend. One critic said, "This is proof the franchise is running on fumes." Now, I love the idea of the Mandalorian, as you can no doubt tell. That character, in my opinion, was very cool. The first 2 seasons of the series was great. But like the movies, I lost interest by season 3. Now, let's hope they find some other way to bring the Star Wars idea back to the must-see category where it belongs. Now, apart from the storytelling, Hollywood is also being crippled right now by cost. So much so, producers are increasingly not working in California, with the number of productions in LA declining by 30% in the past 5 years. And jobs in the US film and TV sector have also fallen by 30% over the same period. Producers are choosing to go to London, Vancouver, Prague, and Budapest, each with high-quality facilities, talented craftspeople, and at much lower cost. Here's an example from actor-producer Mel Gibson. He wanted to do a one-day shoot in Los Angeles, but it was going to be so expensive, it was cheaper to fly the entire cast and crew to Bulgaria for 3 days, plus transport, catering, and accommodation. By the way, Mel Gibson knows about this stuff. He knows about budgeting films. None of the studios wanted to support his film, The Passion of the Christ, but he went ahead anyway and produced it himself for $30 million. The film delivered a box office of $600 million. Now, I should say I've never actually produced a movie, and I have the greatest respect for the people who do. Every time I had considered filmmaking, I forced myself to sit in the cinema and try to count all the people in the closing credits. You should try it sometime. The best I could do was to get to 800 people, and I gave up halfway through. Making films is a huge, risky and complex business, and I do have a sense of how hard it is to get it right. Over the years, I've worked closely with filmmakers, mostly for TV. And one of my last big projects before I retired back in 2021 was to oversee the construction of a big film and TV complex at Elstree, a northwest suburb of London. It serves as a place for producers looking for high-quality facilities, good people, and at a cost way below the Hollywood model. Sky Studios Elstree joins a long tradition of filmmaking in the UK, and I was keen to get there. Although I launched the project, I'd never actually seen it finished. So here it is, a site covering 26 acres with 12 full-scale sound stages. This drone video was shot on a quiet day. Now it's a bustling place with studio capacity pretty much booked out. On a busy day, there will be 3,000 people working here. Now this is soundstage number 4. The ceiling height is 40 feet, and it covers 20,000 square feet. That's about the size of 30 London flats. And remember, there are 12 of these here. It felt good to be here and to catch up with some of the people who helped make it happen.
Yeah, it's certainly been a journey. We announced the project, I think it was December 2019, and we all know what came after that with COVID. And we were trying to, build a 28-acre facility with labour shortages and social distancing and procurement challenges all over the shop. So yeah, when we opened our first stage in 2022 and then finally completed in 2023, it was such an achievement for so many people, and a moment that I think everybody at Sky was really
well, proud. I know there were an awful lot of people involved, but I'm also conscious of the fact that you kept the wheels rolling through the whole thing. Dealing with all the doubt that was around the project.
Yeah, I think, whenever you do such a big project like this, and we were going in straight away with 12 sound stages, from nothing to 12, which is ambitious, but that's exactly how Sky works, isn't it?
But we had very compelling reasons to want to do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, 2019 was when Comcast had just acquired Sky, and we knew that between Sky and NBC Universal, we wanted to make sure that we were securing facilities, great facilities, where we could continue to invest in creating amazing productions. And the UK is a tremendously sought-after place to film. We've got such terrific crews over here. We've got the infrastructure to support it. We're on the doorstep of Europe for location filming, etc. So there's lots of reasons why productions want to film in the UK, and we needed to make sure that we were securing our home turf, if you like, so that we could continue developing the great slates that we had planned.
And it must be very satisfying for you to now see it fully operational like it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally a pinch me moment. If I haven't been here for a couple of weeks and I come back and I see that arch and all the production activity like you've seen today, it just really brings into reality how much we've achieved here and how much we are supporting, the creative industries within the UK. You can see it by all the crew we have on site on a daily basis. It's just, it's an incredibly proud part of my career and lots of people who work at Sky.
Well, you've earned the right to be proud, and I'm certainly proud of everything you guys have done.
Thank you, Gary. It was a real pleasure.
Around the facility, there are signs of some of the productions that were made here, including one of the Jurassic Park movies. There are tributes to the work of the great Steven Spielberg, the director of E.T., the Extraterrestrial, just about everywhere. You can see my own version of that iconic scene back in episode 36, with a link in the description below. And as we toured the property, I had a chance to catch up with the managing director, Noel Tovey, a veteran of this business, formerly with another famous studio, Pinewood. And Noel is carefully tracking big changes in production, including an exciting industry response to artificial intelligence.
You know, it's interesting that just a mile down the road in the 1970s, Spielberg and George Lucas, you know, shot their movies at old Elstree. And there was a massive crew base in this area, which is one of the reasons Sky decided to build Elstree Studio here, because of the infrastructure that had been laid, you know, since the early days. I mean, Elstree Studios is 100 years old this year, and they're celebrating their centenary. And I was going through the filmography, and you know, there's some great movies that I always assumed were shot in LA were shot just down the road, and we're carrying on that tradition right here.
And all kinds of tradesmen.
Yep.
Electricians, carpenters,
yep.
metal workers, etc.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I often say to people, there's nothing that these tradespeople cannot build. You know, the art department will come up with some crazy drawing of something, and it has to move or act, you know, react in some sort of way in action in the script. And they do it, you know. It's
yes.
Amazing.
So tell me what's going on in the technical side of production. Are we all going purely into AI and computer graphics?
So computer graphics, of course, have been around for a long time, and using AI has been around for a long time in that part, you know, the industry. However, I've seen a move towards shooting in camera a lot more, to doing things for real. Reliance on blue and green screens, yeah, they may still put stuff up, but actually, you know, Wicked shot here, and they tried to shoot as much as possible. Some of the complicated stunts and dance scenes were, you know, all shot for real, rather than digitally adding, you know, extras in the background. The people were really there. They were really choreographed. They were all in costume.
Yeah, and I've seen here today some enormous sets, including an entire village. So that's a big commitment in cost and time.
Yeah, and it helps with the performance as well, right? So the cast, it must be slightly soul destroying to spend, you know, weeks and weeks in front of blue screens, but to actually be there in a real set, you know, real things with which to interact makes a huge difference with the performance.
Yeah, so in some ways we're going back to the good old days of production.
Well, you know, I've got a vested interest in that. I need to fill these spaces, right?
Yes.
We need sets, people to build real sets.
Yeah. Well, you've had no trouble so far.
No,
well done.
No. Well, I had a great foundation on which to work. Yeah, they're great sound stages. It's a really well thought through studio.
Well, congratulations,
Thank you
Noel.
very much,
It's been a pleasure to be here.
You're very welcome.
So that was Sky Studios Elstree, where business is booming with more and more producers coming to Europe to make their films and series. My thanks to Sophie, Noel, and the rest of the team at Elstree. I'm proud to have played a small part in that project, and it looks like it has a brilliant future. But what about the future of Hollywood? Well, lots of mixed emotions on that. According to the Wall Street Journal, the Los Angeles entertainment economy is in a downturn spiral and looking like a disaster movie. It's hard to know what will actually happen there, but we do know the industry has lost 40,000 jobs since 2022. And hard to imagine it's going to get better anytime soon. But of course, that all means good news for the creative community in Europe and all the talented craftspeople in the industry here. Meanwhile, I hope the folks at Disney can figure out a way to get us all back into the cinemas to watch another Star Wars. Or maybe it's just time to let it go as an act of respect for what we all saw and loved back in 1977 with A New Hope. Thanks for being here in the shed, and we'll see you in the next episode.